Hey guys, what's up? PizzaLovingNerd here. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to install postmarketOS onto the PinePhone. So in my opinion, postmarketOS is one of the coolest OSs for the PinePhone because of how customizable it is during the installation. It comes with barely any apps pre-installed, and you can use whatever GUI you want on it. However, because it's so customizable, it's kind of like Arch Linux where it is a huge pain to install. So hopefully this guide will help you install it on your PinePhone. Installing postmarketOS is a lot more difficult than installing other OSs onto the PinePhone. You're going to need a Linux system with at least kernel 3.17 or newer, and the Windows subsystem for Linux will not work for this. So if you're using Windows, I highly recommend creating a Ubuntu USB, so this has Ubuntu on it, and then you can just boot off the USB and do this process from that. The first thing we are going to want to do is install pip, which is a package manager for installing Python modules and programs, as well as Git, which is a version control system that pmbootstrap, which is what we need to install postmarket. pmbootstrap needs it to download the files it needs, so we need to make sure we have these two packages installed. So I'm on OpenSUSE, so I need to do sudo zipper in and then python 3-pip. So we'll have to let that go for a second. Oh, and Git as well, so Git too. So it will be different depending on what distro you are. Here are the packages right here. So yeah, first install those two things. And now we are done, so we can clear it. And the next thing we need to do is install pmbootstrap using pip, which is the thing we just installed. So we're going to type sudo pip3 install pmbootstrap, and then we'll press enter, give it a fat second, and boom. So we're going to hit clear now, and if you've used pmbootstrap before, you're going to want to run pmbootstrap pull. However, if you haven't used it before, like me, I haven't used it on this system before, you're going to want to type pmbootstrap init, and if you have used it, you'll type it again after you hit pull, whatever. So it's going to want you to select your work path. You can either enter in a directory or you can just press enter, and it needs to clone the Git repo. We're going to select the channel. Now, right now, we have to do Edge because at the time of me making this video, the PinePhone does not support stable yet, but it does support Edge. So we're going to either press enter because Edge is the default, or type Edge for our release channel. But in the future, the PinePhone might support the stable channel, so if you want a more stable experience, then you could go with stable, but I'm always just going to keep going with Edge. Now it's going to want you to select your vendor, so I'm going to do Pine64 as my vendor, because that's the company that makes the PinePhone. And then for the device code name, we're going to want to type PinePhone, and it's going to ask to offer a proprietary driver for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth firmware. We're going to hit Y for yes. Then it will want you to type your username. I'm just going to type PizzaLovingNerd. It's going to want you to type your UI. The default is Weston, however, it's sort of a demo interface. It's not really usable if you actually want to use Postmarket as your phone. So if you do, I recommend Fosh, because that seems to be the least buggy UI for me. So Fosh. And then it will ask you if you want to change the build system stuff. I'm just going to hit N for no. And then it will ask if you want extra packages. I'm just going to type none because I don't want any extra packages. Then it's going to try and detect your time zone. And if it detected your time zone correctly, you would hit Y, which it did. And then we'll type a device host name. So I recommend doing either Pine64-PinePhone, or you could just do, PinePhone. So I'll do that. And now we are done configuring pmbootstrap. So we're going to clear this. Now, we're going to want to plug in your SD card into your computer, so just give me a second so I can do that. I'm going to be using a USB, a micro SD to USB adapter, but you can also use a micro SD to regular SD adapter, so yeah. Now, once you've plugged in your SD card, we're going to look for the drive name of our SD card, so I have a lot of drives on the system, However, I can tell by the storage space because I have a 64 gig SD card, which is 60 gigs, I guess. I don't know. So this is my SD card right here. Now be careful when you do this, because if you pick the wrong storage device, it's going to completely wipe it. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to type pmbootstrap or not just install --SD card equals, and then we're going to type the name of our SD card. So it's probably going to be something dev/SD and then a letter. Or it's if you're using a SD to regular SD adapter, or I guess a micro SD to regular SD adapter. If you're using one of those, it's going to be EMMC BLK and then a number. So keep that in mind. So we're going to install it to /dev std, because that's where my drive is. So then it will ask you to enter your root password. Give that a second. Now, eventually, it's going to ask for a password to set for postmarketOS. Some UI things, you're going to want to set it to a number password and not a letter password, because some UIs only give you a number number pad for your passcode. So keep that in mind. So we'll ask you for a passcode. Now that I've showed you how to install it to an SD card, I'm going to show you how to install it to an EMMC, which is the PinePhone's local storage. So you're going to want to run this wget command that you can find on my website to download something called Jump Drive, which is a tool for the PinePhone. And then we're going to type unxz pine64-pinephone.image.xz. So run that, it's going to be super quick. And now we're going to type sudo dd bs equals 4m if equals pine64 pinephone.image, and then of/dev/sdd, because that's my SD card's drive. So yeah, it wrote very fast, but it's written to the PinePhone now. And now you're going to want to restart your PinePhone and plug it into your computer, so it should give you a screen like this when you do that. So now that we have the PinePhone plugged into our computer with this jump drive screen, we're gonna clear it again, and then we're gonna run lsblk-p again. And as you can see right here, we have two new drives. So this /dev/sdd, that's my EMMC right here, and /dev/sde for me is the PinePhone's SD card. So what's nice is you can actually write to both of them if you want. However, since we are trying to install postmarketOS to the EMMC for this, I'm just going to run pmbootstrap install --SD card equals /dev/sdd. Now, on the third step, you may get an error like this. Error, /dev/sdd2 is mounted. We will not attempt to format this. This basically means that another program opened it. So if you're sure that like your file manager or something doesn't have it opened, if you're sure nothing is using it, then you can run sudo umount and then the drive partition thing, whatever. Hit enter. And now if we run the command again, this error will be fixed. So, nifty. Alright, so when this is done, just type pmbootstrap and shutdown. So we're going to shut her down, and this will shut down the pmbootstrap program. And now, if I unplug my PinePhone, or your SD card, depending on if you're installing it to a EMMC or a SD card, now, as you guys can see, we have postmarketOS loading, and if you give it a fat second, it will boot into Phosh, which is the UI I chose. So, here it is, fully working. Thank you for watching this video. Thanks to patrons Sam Covett, Jim Peter, and Michelle Vantino. And if you're on LBRY, please tip, because these videos take a lot of work, especially considering I'm doing articles now alongside them. Also, thanks for 1,000 followers on LBRY. Anyways, bye.